I'm Rose. As I walked into my mother's house, the warm scent of roasted chicken and baked potatoes filled the air. I was expecting a usual family gathering, the kind where we catch up over a good meal, share some laughs, indulge in a bit of playful banter, and perhaps even witness a touch of the typical family drama, but nothing prepared me for what was about to happen. The moment I stepped in, I was greeted with warm hugs and loud greetings. My sister Lily, who was visibly pregnant, gave me a tight hug. "You look great, Rose," she said, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Dinner was served, and the conversation started off lightheartedly. Dad went on about his latest fishing trip, while Aunt Mabel took her usual opportunity to complain about her neighbors. For a while, everything felt familiar, normal. Then, as we neared the end of our meal, my mother cleared her throat, signaling something serious. The room suddenly fell silent. I glanced around, sensing the tension. "Rose," my mom began, her voice somber, "there's something important we need to talk about." Her words felt heavy, and I noticed Lily avoiding my gaze. My heart tightened. "What is it? Is everything okay with the baby?" I asked, concerned. "The baby's fine," Mom reassured me. "It's just Lily is struggling a bit. Her apartment is too small, especially with a baby on the way." I waited for her to continue, a growing sense of unease washing over me. "We think it would be best if Lily moved into your house," Mom finally said. Her tone was matter-of-fact, but her words felt like a bombshell. I blinked, trying to process. "My house?" I managed to stammer. "You want me to give up my home?" "It's only temporary, dear," Mom quickly added, trying to ease the tension. "Just until Lily gets back on her feet. You have the space, and it's such a safe neighborhood for a child." I looked around the table, feeling a swirl of emotions. No one would meet my gaze, except Aunt Mabel, who nodded vigorously as though it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "But I've worked so hard for that house, it's my home," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I know, honey," Mom said softly, "but family comes first, and Lily really needs this." Lily finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Rose, I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice." I felt a flood of emotions, anger, disbelief, guilt. How could they ask this of me, to give up the home I had built for myself? "Can we talk about this later?" I said, struggling to keep my composure. "I need time to process." Mom looked disappointed but nodded. "Of course, dear, we can discuss it later." The rest of the evening passed in a blur, the weight of the conversation hanging heavy in the air. I couldn't shake the feeling of being blindsided by my family, and I left that night with far more on my mind than I had anticipated. I couldn't focus on the conversation. My mind was spinning from the shock of the request. It wasn't just the fact that they wanted me to give up my home, it was how they did it, in front of everyone, putting me on the spot, as if they expected me to agree without hesitation or questions. As I drove home that night, I couldn't shake the overwhelming feeling of betrayal. The very people who were supposed to support and understand me, my family, were now asking me to sacrifice something deeply personal. My house wasn't just a place, it was my sanctuary, my achievement, the result of my hard work. Lying in bed that night, staring up at the ceiling, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The house wasn't just bricks and mortar, it was filled with memories, dreams, and the sense of independence I had built for myself. The thought of giving it up felt unbearable, yet the guilt of possibly letting down my sister, Lily, and the rest of my family weighed heavily on me. I knew this wasn't just a simple request. It felt like a test of my loyalty to them, a challenge to my independence, and I was torn, pulled between wanting to meet their expectations and standing up for myself. That family dinner had set the stage for a conflict I wasn't prepared for, a challenge that would test my resolve in ways I hadn't imagined. As I finally drifted off to sleep, one thing was clear. The days ahead were going to be some of the toughest I had ever faced. The next morning, I found myself at my desk early, still distracted by everything that had happened the night before. The request to give up my home weighed on me heavily. It wasn't just a house, it was a place I had poured my heart and soul into, and paying the mortgage had been a struggle I was proud of overcoming. As I tried to immerse myself in work, my colleague and close friend, Mark, noticed the strain on my face. "Hey Rose, you seem off today. What's going on?" he asked, leaning against my desk. I sighed deeply, my emotions still raw. "It's a family thing," I explained. "They want me to give up my house for Lily." Mark's eyes widened in surprise. "Your house? But you've worked so hard for that place." "I know," I said, feeling a lump forming in my throat. I've put so much effort into paying off that mortgage, and now, just because Lily's pregnant, they expect me to hand it over. As the day went on, my predicament slowly became the topic of discussion around the office. I hadn't meant to share it with everyone, but once Mark knew, the news spread quickly. In the lunchroom, Janet from HR approached me, her expression full of concern. "Rose, I heard about your situation, but don't you think your sister needs the house more than you do? I mean, family is family, right?" she said. Her words hit me hard. I struggled to keep my composure. "It's not that simple, Janet," I replied. "I've sacrificed so much for that house. It's not just a building to me." Later, during a team meeting, I found myself once again lost in thought. The weight of the situation hung over me, and I knew this wasn't a decision I could take lightly, no matter which way I turned. I felt trapped between my love for my family and my own sense of self-worth. As I sat at my desk, trying to focus, I couldn't help but overhear a hushed conversation behind me. "If it were me, I'd just give up the house. That's what family does for each other," one of my colleagues muttered. Hearing that made my heart sink. It was disheartening to feel as though all my hard work and dedication were being dismissed so easily. Yet, not all my coworkers felt the same. Some offered sympathetic nods and words of encouragement, clearly recognizing the unfairness of my situation. The rest of the day felt like a constant tug-of-war between my professional responsibilities and the emotional turmoil brewing inside me. I realized the broader issue wasn't just my family's pressure, but also the societal expectation that family should always come before personal achievements. This expectation seemed to echo in many of the comments I received throughout the day, as though my own efforts and struggles were insignificant next to my role as a sister. This wasn't just about my house anymore. It was about my identity, my independence, and my right to make decisions for my own life. The pressure from my family was difficult enough, but facing similar attitudes at work highlighted how ingrained these societal norms really were. As I left the office that evening, I felt a strange mix of frustration and clarity. I realized that standing up for myself would be no easy feat, especially when it meant going against what so many people considered to be normal or expected. But the idea of giving in to this pressure, of sacrificing my home and everything it represented, became more and more unthinkable as the day wore on. Driving home, I passed by familiar streets and landmarks, each one a reminder of the journey that had brought me to this point in my life. My house wasn't just a structure, it was a testament to my resilience, my independence, and the countless sacrifices I had made to get here. When I arrived home, I paused for a moment outside, staring at the house I had worked so hard to build and protect. The mere thought of giving it up, especially under such unfair circumstances, only strengthened my resolve. Inside, surrounded by the walls I had painted and the furniture I had carefully chosen, I felt a renewed sense of determination wash over me. I knew the road ahead would be tough, difficult conversations lay in wait, and the relationships with my family might become strained, but deep down, I knew I had to stand up for myself, for what I believed in, and for my right to make choices about my own life. My home represented more than just shelter, it was a symbol of everything I had fought for. That night, as I sat in my living room, I made a decision. I would not give up my house without a fight. I had poured too much of my heart and soul into it to let it go so easily. The pressure I had felt at work that day, the comments and societal expectations, only highlighted the importance of standing firm. It wasn't just about keeping a roof over my head, it was about my dignity, my right to choose my own path, and standing up against norms that so often disregarded individual efforts and achievements. At the local community center, where the weekly neighborhood gathering buzzed with energy and chatter, I realized I wasn't just preparing to defend my house, I was preparing to defend my independence and the life I had built. I had always felt a strong sense of community at the local gatherings, but tonight was different. I wasn't just here for the usual chit-chat, I had come seeking advice about the dilemma with my family and my house. Weaving through the familiar crowd, I exchanged greetings with neighbors until, inevitably, the topic came up. "So, Rose, this thing with your sister and your house must be tough," said Bob, my neighbor from 2 doors down, as he handed me a cup of coffee. I sighed deeply, feeling the weight of the situation. "It's complicated. I want to support my sister, but giving up my home, that's a big ask." "You've worked too hard for that house, Rose," Sarah from across the street chimed in. "It's unfair to expect you to just give it up." I was grateful for Sarah's support, but not everyone shared her perspective. "Family comes first, Rose," Greg, another neighbor, countered, Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for the people we love. The discussion around me grew as others joined in, their voices rising in agreement or dissent. Some sided with Sarah, while others echoed Greg's view. The debate mirrored the broader societal expectations about family duty versus personal rights. Amidst the buzz, Mrs. Jenkins, an elderly neighbor known for her wisdom and kindness, gestured for me to join her in a quieter corner. Her eyes were filled with empathy as she began to speak. "Rose, I heard about your situation," she said softly. "Many years ago, I faced something similar. My family pressured me to make a sacrifice for my brother. At the time, I thought I was doing the right thing." She paused, a look of regret flickering across her face. "But giving in to that pressure is a decision I've regretted ever since. I didn't just lose something valuable, I lost a part of myself, my independence. It took me years to understand the full impact of that choice." Her words hit me hard. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, and I hung on to every word. "Your home," she continued, "is more than just a house. It's a symbol of your hard work and resilience. If you give it up because of family pressure, you might end up feeling like I did, regretful and diminished." I felt a knot in my chest as her words sank in. "I'm scared of making the wrong choice," I confessed quietly. Mrs. Jenkins squeezed my hand, her grip firm but comforting. "It's normal to feel scared, but standing up for yourself isn't just about keeping the house, it's about honoring your efforts and your decisions. You have every right to choose what's best for you, not just what others expect." A wave of emotion washed over me as her advice settled in. "Thank you, Mrs. Jenkins," I said, my voice thick with gratitude. "Your perspective means more than you know." Leaving the community center that evening, I felt a renewed sense of clarity and resolve. The conversation with Mrs. Jenkins, in particular, had given me the courage I needed. Her story was a powerful reminder of the importance of making choices that reflect my true self, rather than simply bending to family pressure. That night, as I lay in bed, thoughts of the upcoming confrontation with my family circled in my mind. It was going to be one of the hardest conversations of my life, but now, more than ever, I felt ready. I was determined to stand my ground. My home represented more than just a place to live, it was a symbol of my journey, my struggles, and everything I had achieved. I couldn't let it go without a fight. With a blend of nerves and determination, I invited my family over, knowing this would be a defining moment. The living room felt charged with tension as my family arrived. Mrs. Thompson, Lily, Dad, and a few aunts and uncles. Their faces displayed a range of emotions, from curiosity to concern. Once everyone settled in, I took a deep breath. "I've asked you all here to talk about the house situation," I began, my voice steady despite the rapid beating of my heart. "I understand why you think it's best for Lily to move in here, but I've made my decision." Mrs. Thompson quickly interrupted. "Rose, we're family. You should want to help Lily." "I do want to help Lily," I acknowledged, nodding at her, "but giving up my home isn't the answer. I've worked hard for this house, struggled to pay off every cent of the mortgage. It's not just a building, it's a symbol of my independence." A heavy silence followed as my words settled in the air. I continued, turning to Lily. "You're always welcome to come over if you're in a bind, but I can't give up my home. It's not fair to ask that of me." Lily looked down, her face a mix of disappointment and understanding. Mrs. Thompson, however, was less accepting. "Rose, you're being selfish. Family should come before everything else," she said, her tone sharp. Just then, Uncle Jim spoke up, his voice calm and steady. "I think Rose has a point. We can't expect her to give up everything she's worked for. There has to be another way." Aunt Mabel, siding with Mrs. Thompson, added, "But Lily needs a proper home for the baby. Rose has the space." The room erupted into a whirlwind of opinions. Some family members argued in favor of family duty, while others defended my right to my home and my choices. As the discussion heated up, Dad remained silent. Then, finally, he spoke, cutting through the noise. "Enough, this is Rose's decision, we should respect it." His words brought a slight sense of calm to the room, but the division was clear. Some nodded in agreement, while others, Mrs. Thompson and Aunt Mabel included, looked disappointed, even angry. As the evening drew to a close, the rift within the family was palpable. Some relatives left in frustration, while others stayed behind, offering support and understanding. Despite the tension, I felt an immense sense of empowerment. I had stood my ground, set a boundary, and claimed my right to make my own decisions. It wasn't an easy choice, and the consequences were real, but I knew it was the right one for me. In the days that followed, I found comfort and solidarity in my neighborhood. I hosted a small gathering at my house, inviting neighbors who had stood by me. It was a simple event, full of laughter and shared stories, a sharp contrast to the tension of the family meeting. As we sat in the backyard, enjoying the cool evening breeze, I looked around at the smiling faces of my friends and neighbors. These were my people, those who respected my choices and understood the significance of my journey. The path had been challenging, filled with doubt and difficult conversations, but it had led me to a place of strength and self-assurance. I had learned the value of standing up for myself, of maintaining my independence, and of choosing my own path. As the evening came to a close, I stood in my home, a place that was truly mine, and smiled. Though the future might hold uncertainty and strained relationships, I was ready to face it all on my own terms, in the sanctuary I had fought so hard to keep. Rose's journey has reached its conclusion, but now I have a question for you. If you were in Rose's shoes, would you have made the same decision to keep your house, or would you have sacrificed your home for your sibling? This situation raises profound themes about family duty versus personal rights. What would you prioritize, and why? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please share them in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this story and the important discussion it brings, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more engaging content. Your support helps us continue to bring you stories and conversations that matter.